Hey, so I'm here to discuss what is high fructose corn syrup, um, and I'm also going to discuss, the difference between that and sugar, media coverage, why people hate on high fructose corn syrup, the defense that food industry uses um, uh, to support high fructose corn syrup, and why I think sugar and high fructose corn syrup are in the same category, no different from each other. Alright, so here we go. So one thing you need to understand about high fructose corn syrup is that it's composed of two what we call simple sugars. These simple sugars are monosaccharides. Don't worry about the name. It just means that they're single molecules, small little things. Now, what high fructose corn syrup is it's a hybrid. It's both glucose and fructose combined together. So it's two monosaccharides, glucose and fructose combined together. Okay, so those will put together there. I don't like to do that. All right, so yeah, so it's these two elements combined together. One thing that you need to know is that in order to understand why fructose is bad for you, is you need to first understand how glucose is metabolized. So how glucose is metabolized is that when we consume glucose, about 80% of it is taken up by the muscles. So we eat some glucose. Let's say 120 grams of glucose. So we take that in. Only about 24 makes it to the second storage site, which is the liver. So 80% of it is immediately used and utilized by the muscles, and take it because glucose is the body's natural immediate source of energy. Everything can use glucose as energy. Any sort of organic substance, organic meaning not organic foods, but like I'm an organic molecule, insect, plant, organic molecules. Sorry, organisms, not molecules. All right. So yeah, so we have 120 grams of glucose taken in, and now only 24 of those grams are put into the liver. One thing that you need to understand is that the liver's metabolism, the way liver deals with sugar, is it's going to try and convert that to other sources of energy. And when it's trying to convert it to another source of energy, what happens is through that process, certain byproducts are created. One of these byproducts is VLDL. That's what some may refer to as very lethal cholesterol. So HDL is healthy cholesterol, LDL is bad cholesterol, and VLDL is very bad cholesterol. Okay, so glucose, these 24 grams produce a small quantity of VLDL. Just for anyone who actually wants to know, VLDL stands for scientifically low density cholesterol, meaning that it has less density, so therefore it's lighter and can move through the membranes. Whereas HDL is easily processed, believe it or not, even despite the fact it's higher. It's better integrated into our system, so it's not just floating around and going into our arteries and stuff. Where was I here? Okay, so now we know how glucose is processed, and the byproducts. So glucose it's not necessarily bad, but obviously you can see that there's very lethal cholesterol, as they call it, is has been associated directly with high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease. It's overall it's really bad. Okay, if you eat a lot of this, you're almost guaranteed to have a heart attack. Okay, so if you have have high levels of VLDL, then you gotta check your arteries. So okay, on that note, now that we can kind of understand and quantify that, and quantify just exactly how bad it is for you, how exactly bad VLDL is for you, then you can kind of understand really how bad glucose is for you. Not necessarily all that bad, because how much it produces is very small quantities. We're talking about like just like 0.5 of percent of what goes into the liver. Now the issue here is the difference between high fructose corn syrup. Fructose compared to glucose is that it's produced when the body tries to take in fructose, it doesn't get metabolized by the liver. It stays out. It stays out of this process going to the liver. Now you'd think that would mean that it wouldn't get integrated into the body. That's actually false. The body takes an alternative approach to process this different molecule. This alternative approach requires different enzymes and different pathways, and what it eventually leads to is a huge yield. Nearly all of it is eventually then converted from what it is originally, that monosaccharide, to this VLDL. So a huge portion of high fructose corn syrup is directly transported in this VLDL, this lipid, this fat, this cholesterol. Those are all together. So lipid, fat, cholesterol, they're similarly integrated. So essentially what you're doing is when you consume fructose, you're consuming a fat. You're consuming fat. So and which this fat has been linked to, like I said before, heart disease, high blood pressure, and assorted diseases. So now we can begin to see that it's not necessarily the problem isn't that we're consuming high fructose. The problem isn't that we're consuming sugar. It's that we're consuming fructose. We're consuming it in the form of glucose and fructose combined together. One people indicate, because of this pathway, the reason why high fructose corn syrup has been isolated is that it's got fructose in the name. Now, because it has fructose in the name, people can immediately say, well, okay, or scientifically speaking, it's easier to say that fructose is bad for you. All this evidence comes out that fructose is bad for you, then the general populace and media comes in and says high fructose corn syrup is bad for you. It's fructose. And so then everyone jumps on that bandwagon and goes, okay, so high fructose corn syrup is bad for you because it's got fructose in it. But they don't tell you that in the social media. They just tell you that it's bad for you, and that it has fructose has been linked to all these sorts of things. What they don't tell you, for whatever reason, is that both glucose, both sucrose, table sugar, which has been used throughout our lives, and then this high fructose corn syrup is essentially percentilely composed the same. So what I mean by that is that both glucose and fructose are combined together in the same quantities. So high fructose corn syrup isn't actually high fructose corn syrup. It isn't actually high in fructose, meaning that it isn't actually worse for you than sugar. So when people say I hate or they high fructose corn syrup is bad for you, or when they say fructose is bad for you, they're actually meaning that sugar is bad for you. Sugar as a whole, the whole product is sugar is bad for you. So really interesting thing. So by consuming less sugar, we're going to consume less fructose, meaning that we're going to have the increased rates of heart disease and such. And one of the big defenses of high fructose corn syrup is that it's metabolized just like sugar, your natural table sugar, which is exactly right. Like I said, they're both composites of the same thing in the same quantities. The issue with high fructose corn syrup is that it's in everything. And because it's in everything, we're consuming so much of it that it's the problem. It's the problem because of how much we're consuming. Sugar would be just as much of the problem if we're consuming it in the same quantity. But because corn is subsidized and for other reasons, it's made the food industry can put it in cheaply. We put it in everything else, and where sugar, we don't necessarily use it as frequently, so therefore sugar isn't isolated by itself. So one thing I have still yet to understand is why exactly the community regards high fructose corn syrup as high fructose corn syrup when it isn't actually high in fructose. that didn't make much sense to me. I'll make sure to do some research, put in a little blog for you, or whatever those things are called, and I'll hit that topic. The other thing that I actually haven't talked about, which makes fructose even worse for you, is its hormonal effect. This is huge. Right here, this is a big separation. So one study was done on cereals, on kids with cereal. So kids were given a low sugar cereal, given their own amount of sugar that they could add to it, and fruit. Kids with the low sugar added just as much sugar as the kids with the high sugar. But one thing is, they also added more fruits, which makes them, in a sense, healthier. And so because they have less sugar and they have more fruits, it's healthier. Now, the high sugar cereal group added the same quantity of sugar to that already high sugar, added less fruit. I'm not sure exactly why they did, but this is what the study suggested. They had added less fruit, and then they ate. This is the big deal. That they ate twice as much. The kids with the high sugar ate twice as much, two times what the other kids ate, and it's literally the quantity at which you eat it is the problem, and because you eat this high sugar thing in so much, that's what makes it bad for you. Now, how is it tricked? Why exactly did the high sugar people eat twice as much? That doesn't make any sense. Well, guess what? Yes, it does. What fructose does is that it affects the hormones, a hormone called ghrelin. Ghrelin is an appetite regulating hormone. It tells you when you're hungry, and what fructose does is that it doesn't have that response. Why? Because it doesn't respond with insulin. Now, because it doesn't respond with insulin, it creates insulin resistance. In both the muscles and the liver, and also doesn't affect ghrelin levels, and secondly, it doesn't affect lipid levels or leptin levels. Also, a second hormonal regulating compound. All right.